So welcome to ELPS's recognition reception. We have a number of people to recognize and honor, and it's always nice, and I'm glad that we had such a good crowd and people were mixing out there, and there's plenty of food, so please don't hesitate to get up, grab some food, bring it back in. Don't tell Mr. Page because we're eating in the auditorium. But it's always nice just to take a moment because the last 2 weeks of school tend to be frenzied. So it's nice to breathe just for a moment and connect with each other. So I'm glad all of you are doing that out there, and it would be really nice now in a more formal way to recognize some significant years of service to ELPS, and then even more significantly wish our retirees the best as they move on from ELPS, and then finally culminate with some really incredible folks who have achieved and given back so much to ELPS, and now we honor them with the Hall of Fame induction. So all of that's going to happen just in a few moments. And now it's my great pleasure to introduce Miss Abby Steiner, who is going to introduce our reflection speaker. Abby?
Hi, everyone. It's my pleasure to introduce our first speaker today as she reflects on her time here in East Longmeadow. I first met Anne-Marie during my first year here in East Longmeadow. Her dedication to teaching and her advocacy for students stood out even on my first few days here in East Longmeadow. Please welcome Anne-Marie Mowry.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to be really brief because I know how it is to sit there. As any elementary teacher, I'm going to reference a picture book because that's what we do. Good afternoon. I'm very honored to have this opportunity to give this year's reflection speech. I've been in East Longmeadow a long time. Like the main character in this, my most favorite children's book, Miss Rumphius. If you're familiar, it's a story about a character who goes through name changes as well as career changes, as well as her ultimate goal in achieving an enriching life. So, we all know I've had my name changed a couple of times. I've had my share of different locations during my 30 years here in East Longmeadow. I started teaching, believe it or not, in 1989 at Mountain View. I did a long-term sub-position at the old Birchland. It was there I developed my professional philosophy of never teaching anyone taller than me. So that's kept me at the 4th grade. I hopped over to Meadowbrook. When I hopped over to Meadowbrook, the district was in the middle of redistricting from neighborhood schools to our current model of K2, 3, 5. And at that point, it was a hotbed of controversy because the kindergarten had to give up nap time. That long ago. Then my job was eliminated and I went over to Maple Shade. Over at Maple Shade, I met a staff member, Frank Page, although he was a 5th grader. Who was lovely, by the way. And I spent a real long time there. From Maple Shade, I hopped back over to Mountain View. So I've had quite a variety of positions in buildings, grade levels, and lots of different opportunities to know so many of you who are here today. So here's the thing. Here's the point of my speech, my real message to you. As I reflect, my mantra to you is going to be really simple. Buy the ticket, book the trip, make the sub-plans. It's simple. Don't wait to travel. In our profession, we tend to work weekends and summers and do lots and lots to prepare for our students. Don't. Take the summer for you. Rest. You only have your time. Travel, see the world, and spend time with your families and friends. Buy the ticket. And if you choose to travel during a school year, make the sub-plans. Life is short, and there is a whole wide world out there that does not include your students or your classroom. I've experienced so many joys in teaching and working with wonderful, dedicated colleagues and the families of East Longmeadow. I will forever be grateful. But as the character in my favorite book, it is time to travel to faraway places and hopefully live by the sea. An additional shout out to Kristen, who has helped me a lot this year. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Those are really important words, and we're really happy to have Anne-Marie back with us to end the year and wish her well into retirement. So another round of applause for Anne-Marie, please. And Anne-Marie, something in common. I just said to Frank today that I really thought he was a lovely person. So it's amazing, Frank. Kept it all the way through from 5th grade, right to being a principal. Okay, now we get the opportunity to recognize some really significant service, years of service to ELPS. And we're going to start with our group that's at the top in terms of years of service. So this is 35 years of service. And our first honoree is Gail Condon. Okay. Our next honoree is Kim Stayback. We're still working out the logistics. Moving to 30 years of service, 3 decades of service. Our first honoree, Mark Bale. Yes, you can. Our next honoree for 30 years is Wendy Cruz. moving to 25 years of service. Our first honoree, Tammy Brown. Now, I don't think she's with us, but I don't think she's with us, but I do want to honor Carol Forward, 25 years of service. And our next honoree for 25 years of service is Diane Goggin. Next honoree for 25 years of service, I don't believe is with us today, but we do want to honor him at least out loud, Mr. Darren Izzo. I did see this gentleman. Our next honoree for 25 years of service, Bill O'Hara. All right, and our final honoree for 25 years of service, I don't believe is with us, but we obviously want to honor her out loud, Janet Sullivan. Okay, a large group celebrating 20 years of service, 2 decades giving to ELPS. Our first honoree, Jeff Pahanowitz. Next up, for 20 years of service, Nancy Carver. Next honoree for 20 years of service, Christina DeGray. Next up, our photographer, 20 years of service, Julie Elke. Our next honoree for 20 years of service, Colleen Ferry. Our next honoree for 20 years of service, Stephen Guay.
Oh my God! Wow, Mr. Guay.
Our next honoree for 20 years of service, Carrie Lorenzo. Next honoree for 20 years of service, Celeste O'Brien. Kind of like Price is Right coming down. I did not see this next individual, but I do want to recognize her, Kristen Rahilly. Our next honoree for 20 years of service, Liz Sopranovich. Our next honoree for 20 years of service, I'm not sure that she's here, I did not see her, but Eileen Turnberg. Our next honoree, 20 years of service, Kate Wallen. Final honoree for 20 years of service, 2 decades, Kathy Wolfenden. Traveling video show. Nice job, Kathy. We'll send that out via Twitter, via Instagram. Also, Blooms it. Okay. All right. All right, now we're going to move to recognizing our retirees. We actually would like to quickly sign them all back on, but having had a few of those conversations in the hallway, it seems like they're set and they're ready to go. So we want to wish them well. So first up, honoring our retirees, Gary Blanchett. We're very formal here in ELPS. Our next retiree, I don't believe is with us, but we do want to recognize her, Joan Clark. Our next retiree is Jan Clinney. Jan was with us, but she did have to leave. She has a graduation to attend tonight. Our next retiree is Louise Davis. Our next honoree and retiree, I don't believe is with us, Deb Grover. Our next retiree is Kim Keogh. Our next retiree is Kelly LeBombard. Our next retiree was our speaker, Anne-Marie Mowry. I'm not sure if this individual is here. Our next retiree is Jean O'Donnell. Same maybe for this individual, Linda Talbot. Next retiree, Deb Thompson. And our final retiree, Teresa Tober. of applause for all of our retirees. We wish you all the best, and as Anne-Marie said, book the ticket. So now we're going to move to a very special part of the program where we get to welcome in some incredible folks who have given so much to ELPS. And first up, we're going to have Ms. Norton introduce our first inductee. Ms. Norton?
Okay, good afternoon. It's my pleasure to nominate Miss Marilyn Cleavall for induction to the ELPS Educator Hall of Fame. Marilyn worked as a special education teacher here at the high school for over 20 years. It's impossible to measure the impact that Marilyn has had on the lives and education of numerous special education students and colleagues at East Longmeadow High School. Marilyn was key to developing the special education model that we have today, in which special education teacher teaches alongside a classroom teacher in classes that are a mix of both special education and regular education students. The pilot program started in biology with Mary Jo Renier in 1994. Marilyn was invaluable in instructing a new teacher in the language and nuances of special education and helped ensure that the students' IEPs were being followed correctly. Marilyn worked with students to help clarify and explain difficult concepts and would also help as a cooperating teacher to provide alternate ideas for lesson plans and activities. Marilyn also developed our Resources for Learning class, which we still have today. Marilyn was a founding member of High Save, a Pioneer Valley collaborative educational committee that met regularly with area high school teachers and organized several professional development opportunities. The culminating event was a 2-day conference held at Elms College. This conference included presentations by the Concord Consortium on innovative educational practices that teachers could immediately implement in their classrooms. Marilyn was also a contributing member of the East Longmeadow University of Massachusetts Professional Development School and helped to write the ELPS UMass Intern Resource Handbook. This program allowed for students from UMass to have an opportunity to student teach here at East Longmeadow High School. So as you can see, Marilyn is a lifelong learner who's always shared her knowledge and expertise with others. How fortunate for us. In the classroom, Marilyn always put her students first. She was patient, caring, supportive. Her outgoing personality, her willingness to listen, and my favorite, her tell it like it is attitude made her classroom one that was seldom empty. Many would describe Marilyn as mothering. She strove to instill in her students the learning and life skills necessary to be successful beyond the walls of this high school. She even had snacks for her students who skipped breakfast or forgot their lunch money. She also provided snacks for the staff, Mr. McMahon, myself, Mrs. Conlon, anybody who happened to be in our hallway. Her way of connecting with students was a gift that not all educators have, and that's something I've always admired about Marilyn. To highlight the level of dedication to her job in an effort to make her classroom conducive to learning and foster a positive environment, Marilyn obtained permission from Mr. Richard Ficero to gain access to the building on Saturdays. Marilyn and her partner in crime, Joyce Conlon, would vacuum and dust their classrooms from top to bottom with their favorite rainbow vacuum. As Joyce Conlon says, it was time well spent to make our classrooms inviting. After teaching for 20 years, Marilyn retired, but it wasn't long and she came back to high school. She filled in for special education teachers when they were out on maternity leave. She didn't miss a beat. It was like she had never retired. She also continued to work with special education students. It was like she never retired. Marilyn also continued to work with special education students after those maternity leaves. Sorry about that. East Longmeadow High School is lucky to have her work one-on-one with multiple students that weren't able to be in regular classes for the full day. Marilyn was able to build lasting relationships with those students even after they graduated high school. East Longmeadow Public Schools has been a home to Marilyn as she attended high school here, and then she taught for over 20 years. The students and staff have been fortunate to have her in our lives, and for these reasons, Joyce Conlon, Mary Jo Rainier, Diane Callahan, and I proudly induct her for the East Long Meadow Educator Hall of Fame. Okay, Bonnie Rivera is going to come up and speak next.
Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Bonnie Waite Rivera. My maiden name is Waite. I'm here today to recognize Mr. Dennis Dowling as one of this year's inductees to the ELPS Educators Hall of Fame. He was nominated by myself, Miss Debbie Fay, who's here with us, who is a former Latin teacher at ELHS, and Mrs. Cynthia Gatcombe, formerly Walsh, who was a Spanish teacher at ELHS. Room 220 in the E wing of ELHS was home to Senor Dowling for more than 30 years. My own father, Dennis Waite, was a student in Mr. Dowling's class in the early 1970s as he began his career. When I arrived in 1995 as a sophomore in his class, Dennis had already spent more than 2 decades enriching and changing students' lives with his unique Spanish language and cultural lessons. Whether he was knocking students on the head with a plastic squeaky mallet, singing in Spanish, or scaring people silly by jumping out at them and screaming, "Fun!" he kept their attention. Scared me to death one day. Combined with his goofiness and his constant energy, his passion for grammar and vocabulary, and his diligence for accuracy were remarkable. For decades, he and his colleagues gave the students opportunities to travel to Spain and visit the mother country. When I returned to the department in the fall of 2002 as a Spanish teacher, Dennis was still motivating kids to embrace the language and working to ensure that everyone from Spanish 1 to his rigorous AP class was learning. Dennis retired in 2004, but the fun continued. We traveled with students and colleagues to Madrid and Barcelona in 2004, 5, and 6. Dennis was an excellent tour guide. He made all of the arrangements for travel, hotel, and excursions. Every person on those trips, from chaperones to students, made unforgettable memories. We attended bullfights, flamenco shows, and visited several monuments, castles, and cathedrals, with Dennis in the lead through it all. To quote Debbie Fay, many of Dennis's former students continued their study of Spanish in college and appreciated the foundation received at ELHS. And since their graduation and his retirement, Dennis has kept in contact with countless students and colleagues. Cindy remembers conversing with Dennis both in French and German as well. His love for languages is still strong, and his attachment to Spain is as well. Dennis unfortunately could not join us today because for the 5th time, he is making the 500-mile trek from the Pyrenees Mountains of France to the west coast of Spain on foot, known as El Camino de Santiago. As of this morning, although he's tired, he has between 100 to 200 miles left until he reaches the end. In addition to his journeys, Dennis has volunteered along the routes to help the other pilgrims on their adventure. In conclusion, for his former students and colleagues at East Long Meadow High School, Dennis left a legacy, one that will forever be remembered as part of the history of our school. I am happy to induct him into this year's Educators Hall of Fame. Congratulations, Dennis.
Next, we have Christina DeGreg to come up and speak.
Hi, everyone. I actually worked on this speech with Amy Pelzick, who couldn't be here for all of it, and I have to say we had so much information, we had to pare down our speech, otherwise you would be here until at least maybe 6. So just bear with me. My throat's a little off. I don't know if it's allergies or maybe it's the fire or it could be middle schoolers at the end of the year getting to me. But so if you can't hear me, just say I'll speak up. I am honored to be speaking on behalf of Dr. Joanne Welch for her enshrinement into the East Longmeadow Public School Educator Hall of Fame. To say simply that we were lucky to have Dr. Welch in ELPS for 45 years is not enough. The luck goes beyond that. It is more like the kind of luck that Ted Lasso referred to in season 1 when he said, "I feel like we fell out of the lucky tree and hit every branch on the way down and ended up in a pool of cash and Sour Patch Kids." After graduating from East Longmeadow High School in 1973 and later earning a Bachelor's of Arts in Special Education and Child Study at St. Joe's College, a young Joanne Welch became the first ELPS staff member ever to be hired who had gone all the way through the district as a student. She spent much of her professional career working at East Longmeadow High School and Birchland Park Junior High as a special education teacher. She went on to receive a master's degree and a doctorate in educational psychology from American International College and later worked as a school psychologist. Dr. Welch spent her final 15 years at ELPS working as Director of Student Services, wearing many, many hats, including working as Coordinator of Special Education, Title IX, Civil Rights, and the 504 process. During her 45 years as an employee of ELPS, Dr. Welch has had a profound influence on special education services throughout our district, and thousands of families within the district have been impacted by her work. Dr. Welch has been instrumental in creating programs within the district to allow for students of East Longmeadow to remain within their community. All of Dr. Welch's decisions were student-centered, regardless of the efforts that would go into coordinating services or the costs that went into providing these services. She always found a way to make it work. There is nobody on earth with a better understanding of special education law and child development than Dr. Welch. She always knew the answer to the most challenging questions, and believe me, did we have questions. She also knew just what questions to ask, such as, "Is this the hill you want to die on?" That single question taught us the value of prioritizing and how to pick your battles when working with difficult students and families. That question and guidance continues to live on with so many of our staff despite her retirement. Our success and reputation as special education department are a reflection of the high expectations she held for us as educators. Under her tenure, we were able to provide quality services and supports which provided optimum outcomes. This was particularly evident during the COVID-19 pandemic. Although I suspect this is not how she envisioned her final years leading up to retirement, I am certain that she played an enormous role in developing procedures for supporting our students and staff during that uncertain time. As the pandemic evolved, Dr. Welch worked proactively to ensure that our practices evolved as well and met the guidelines outlined by DESE. Those that nominated Dr. Welch for this tremendous distinction have used the following words to describe her: passionate, ethical, trailblazing, supportive, impressive, committed, dedicated, and most importantly, a true advocate for all students. It should come as no surprise to anyone in this room that Dr. Joanne Welch was recommended for this honor at the very first opportunity. On behalf of the staff, students, and families of ELPS, I am thrilled to announce the induction of Dr. Joanne Welch into the East Longmeadow Public School Educator Hall of Fame. Congratulations.
about the pandemic really quickly. Tuesday, the dentist removed cracked tooth number 4 from the clenched jaw that, went through those years. But I'd like to thank the collaborative committee and the folks who nominated me for this very, very, very much appreciated recognition. Congratulations, Marilyn. And to Dennis, it was always a pleasure to work with you and to be part of your team. And to we certainly could write more than one book. And I wouldn't be here today without teachers, paraprofessionals, therapists, nurses, office staff, and my fellow administrators who truly made the work easy. 50 years ago, I sat over there on awards night, and I was waiting for my turn to be called on stage, and I was just kind of wondering what the world had in store for me. And then 4 years later, I sat there, and Dr. Porter recognized me as the only new hire in 1977 at Convocation. So it means a great deal to me to be in a place that feels like home and receive this. And I thank you all very much. And I hope all of you, I know it hasn't been an easy year. And so I hope you all take Anne Marie's advice to heart and have a really wonderful, relaxing summer. Thank you all so much.
One more round of applause for our new Hall of Famers. That concludes the formal part of our program, but I do want to recognize the members of the collaborative committee who put all of this together, and I think we have all of them here, so I'm going to ask them just to stand up for a round of applause. First, we have our co-ELEA presidents, Abby Steiner and Chris Norden. Julie Elke, our photographer. We saw Hillary Coughlin earlier. Is she still in the house? All right. Chris Ruger. And she's not with us today, but Carol Forward. And Sarah Trulio, who couldn't be here, also with us today. And then just take one more standing ovation for someone who did a tremendous job for the first time coordinating all of this behind the scenes. And she's sitting in the back, Samantha Velasquez. Stand up, Samantha. We certainly couldn't have gotten it all done without Samantha, so she did a fantastic job. So I want to thank you for your attendance today. I want to wish congratulations to all our honorees, and I want to wish the best to all our retirees. We're so incredibly thankful for all that you've done for ELPS, and thank you for taking a little bit of time out of this frenzied period as we close up the 2022-2023 school year. So please give yourselves a round of applause. Connor, you want to videotape us out as we recess?